Well, hello and welcome to the Celebration Machine. I'm your host, Pete Hammond. And tonight I want to do a little video about the first time I think that I actually believed in either God or the power of the universe and manifestation, even though at the time I didn't know what that meant. So back in the 80s when I was a young boy, I had this cat and her name was Patches. She was a calico. She was everything to me. She was my world. I loved this kitty cat. And Patches one day disappeared. And of course, as a young boy, I was probably, maybe 7 years old, 8 years old. I was very upset. I was very concerned. And, my parents said we're going to try and find her, but they didn't know what had happened. Days went by and I was very upset about losing the furry love of my life, Patches. Well, I remember coming home from school and I'd ask my mother if Patches had come home and she hadn't, and I'd get upset and I'd go sit on this curb in front of our house. I remember I started talking to whatever, the universe, God. I used to go to church as a kid, Anglican. I was a kid. I went to church because my mom played the organ. And so I figured, I'll talk to God or I'll talk to the universe. I think I said God, or was thinking about God back then. But anyways, I was talking to something. So I'd sit on that curb every night. And at first I was like crying and begging, the universe or God to bring my cat back. So I wanted my cat. I missed my cat. I loved my cat. Nothing. And I can't remember. Time gets distorted. And I probably should have asked my mother before I filmed this. But it was couple of weeks, I think, at least had gone by, and I was still praying and still, begging. And then I just started thinking about what it'd be like if she actually came home. Like I missed her so much. I just started to think about seeing her. And at first it felt horrible because I missed her. And then I started to feel like how excited I would be and, how much I'd freak out if she actually came home. And the time was passing and nothing was happening. And, there was no, didn't have the internet. There was no putting up Facebook groups and having people look. It was just like, yeah, your cat's gone. Sorry, bud. Well, one day my mom picked me up from school, which is weird because I usually took the bus, and she said, I gotta run an errand. There was something, but I get in the car and she says, I forgot my purse or something. We went right home and she asked me to get something in the kitchen, and I went in the kitchen and there was my cat Patches eating some wet food, and I absolutely lost my mind. And I remember in that moment, I fell to the ground and I grabbed my cat. She was super skinny and I lost my mind, as a child would, who was reunited with their long lost cat. And I can't remember. I know it was a lot of time. It was weeks anyway. And when you're a kid, you know how it is. Weeks feels like months, months feel like years. So it felt like forever since I'd seen my cat. But I specifically remember holding her and crying, and in my little heart, thanking God for getting her back. Because to me, that was like a miracle. Cats usually, when they run away, they don't come back. And I guess what had happened is she'd gone wandering off and some fella had found her, or she wandered off to a guy's property nearby. Some fella living in a trailer, I think it was, and by himself. And, he took care of her and he fed her because she was pretty skinny. And he ended up calling her little number there on her collar. The vet called my mom and said, this is where your cat is. My mom went and picked him up, and I think she gave him some money and brought her home, and she made a full recovery. That was the first time I remember feeling some sort of connection with something bigger than myself, in terms of a relationship of like, hey, but I remember it wasn't until I started feeling like the excitement of getting her back that things happened. We could argue that that's manifestation. We could argue that it's random, but all I know is that happened. I was a kid, and I remember in that moment being incredibly grateful and putting it together as an adult, like, oh yeah, when I changed how I asked for it. Because like the emotion's the prayer, right? That's what has been said. The emotion is the prayer. So it's a big thing to ask for something, but if it's coming from the feeling of lack or anxiety or fear, chances are you're gonna get more of that. So it's not necessarily the words, but the feelings. And I know there's a ton of videos out there about manifestation techniques, but feeling what you want or feeling the emotion of what it would feel like to have that wish fulfilled really seems to be the magic. But that was the first time I ever felt anything like that. And I felt gratitude beyond. The next time I felt that level of gratitude and beyond even that was my last day of cancer treatment. The feeling I had of incredible, it was like, I can't even put it into words. In my book, I wrote it was like words tumble out of my mouth like wooden blocks when trying to describe the moment of getting unhooked from the mold and being told you're done and you're going to get x-rays and we'll see if you're done or if you're going to get started on chemo like the plan was. And I was like, no, I'm fucking done. I'm done. And I was done. I did radiation only and I didn't need the chemo. But anyways, it all started with Patches. my lovely, sweet, sweet Patches, who's long dead now, but, her furry little memory lives on. So I thought I'd give you that little story about manifestation and the first time I felt the power of prayer, essentially. And I hope you enjoyed it. My name's Pete. This is the Celebration Machine. We'll see you next. Bye for now.